This is the trick. It's really cool if you can see it. So there's a presupposing of a non-existent thing, and that would be the body, yeah? Without the animating principle, the body is non-existent, yeah? And it's a thing. So there's a presupposing of a non-existent thing, and that the presupposing of a non-existent thing is actually being done by an existing no thing. Let's put it that way, yeah? And then that presupposing a non-existent thing, and then that non-existent thing wants to get salvation for the non-existent thing. It could be wants to get a pair of pants for the non-existent, wants to get a bologna sandwich. But now all of its drives and all of its visions and where it starts from is from the non-existent thing. And he says, if this is the case, your spiritual practices themselves will be reinforcing the non-existent thing. How can they destroy it, the non-existent thing? That statement stopped me in my tracks because it had just described the last 12, 15 years of what I've been doing. There was a presupposing of a non-existent thing, this action figure, and it was named Paul, and it was looking for salvation for the action figure, where the only salvation is from the action figure. And so if the salvation is from the non-existent thing, how long will it take to become available? Obviously, it's always available at all time because you don't need salvation from a non-existent thing. Yes? Yes, that's the whole freaking point. So the solution never demonstrates itself, it demonstrates itself in time, but it isn't found or landed into or arrived at through time. It's a timeless condition. So it's prior to the presupposing of the non-existent thing. Yeah? Most people, let's just say me, at that point of the story, I was taking what came after, which was this presupposing of a non-existent thing, and I believed that was the before. Yeah, and I didn't like the before, so I was searching for the before, but I was putting it after me. So I was looking for the Buddha, but I was looking for the Buddha as the Buddha. Yeah? Mm-hmm. As a great Zen master, you know Zen a little, Huang Po, a famous Chinese Zen master, says, you cannot use the Buddha to seek the Buddha. You can't use mind, big M mind, to seek mind. You can't use light to seek light. You can try it for eons and nothing's going to happen. Now, why would he say that? He wasn't a sadist. He didn't want to drive Paul crazy, because it would make no sense. He could say that, but if I'm taking myself to be Paul, it makes total sense for Paul to be looking for the Buddha, because Paul needs a lot of freaking help. And I'm thinking it's going to be the Buddha. If I could wake up or get enlightened or become detached, I'd be much better Paul. But he's not seeing us as Paul or Ted or Amelia. He's seeing us as the Buddha. So he's telling the Buddha, who's being at that moment is seemingly identified as Paul, that, you know what, Buddha, seemingly identified as Paul, you can't use yourself to seek yourself. Yeah? The Buddha, you can't use the Buddha to seek the Buddha. So if you hear it from Paul's point of view, oh, I understand that, but I need to seek the Buddha because I'm not the Buddha, I'm Paul. But what happens if you're not Paul? You may find out that you're the Buddha. And how long will it take for you to find out that you're the Buddha? No time at all, because you are the Buddha. That's non-duality to me. That's it. That's the fact. This is the presupposing of a non-existent thing. If that gets in place, your sanctified spiritual practices that you think are going to be different than everything else, they aren't. They're going to be used by the mental state to reinforce the non-existent thing. While you're believing the story that you're destroying the non-existent thing, they're reinforcing the non-existent thing. So the meditation will be used to imply the meditator. Yeah? That's the dilemma. There's a heist that happens that most of us start after the heist. And the heist is the mental process, I like to call it selfing. That mental process of selfing claims whatever it comes in contact with. And so let's say it comes in contact with consciousness, conscious contact, it claims to be the one that's in conscious contact. It presupposes itself before the conscious contact. So the whole situation is that which comes after implies it's before. So basically, you're thinking you're going ahead to reach the goal, but basically you return to the goal. It's like a regression in time because you are what you are looking for right now. As St. Francis said, what's looking is what you're looking for right now. It didn't say what's looking and then 50 pages of the requirements for you to fulfill to become what you're looking for. It says what's looking is what you're looking for. It doesn't say who's looking. It says what's looking. Yeah, that's it. That's the end of the story. That's the end of the talk. Because it's an invitation. It's not a dissertation. You cannot know what you are. You can only be what you are. You can't study what you are. You can only be what you are. You can't experience what you are. You can only be what you are. You can know what you're not. You can study what you're not. And you can experience what you're not. But if you keep applying that to what you are, it's not going to work. Because it hasn't. Yeah. You know how many people who have worn every spiritual shoe there is end up at this shoe store? Inevitably. 30, 40 years. I remember one of the times I was reading this magazine, a Buddhist magazine called Tricycle, and they had an editorial by a famous Western meditation teacher. I don't remember his name. And he was talking about an unusual phenomena was happening, that a lot of his old-time students were getting in touch with him. They'd been studying with him for 20, 25 years, and they were telling him, nothing's really happened. You know what I mean? I canceled my subscription to that fucking magazine that day. Who am I not to learn from others? They've done 25 years, and they're telling me nothing the fuck happened. I'm jumping off the bus, You know what I mean? Why? So that's non-duality to me. It's a fact. It's not two. It doesn't say it's one. It just says it's not two. That's the fact. All you need to do is negate what you take to be so, and you'll find out what's so. And what you find out is you is what's so. You are what's so. You and I are reality, lending reality to things by being identified as a thing. So we're dreaming in a sense. So it's really that simple. It's always just an invitation. And when we're sharing this message, we never talk to you about it. We talk to it about you. Yeah? We're never talking to Michael about non-duality. We're talking to mind about Michael. Yeah? And hopefully the mind will entertain, I'm not that. And you know what's going to be the greatest recipient of the joy of that is Michael, the action figure. You'll travel lighter on a stabilized level. Yeah? It may not change the geography of one's life, but you'll travel lighter with whatever life has in store for you. And after having that occur for years, I realized, what more do I want than that? And ease and comfort in the circumstances and the skin I seem to be in. Yeah, so that's the message. It can be repeated tons of times, but it's a very simple message. If it had any direction, it would be called negation. You're negating what's taken to be so, yeah, because you cannot find out what's so, you can find out what's not so. Yeah. And it's sort of like a weird, like boomerang shot. You see what you're not, and it's the seeing of what you are not is what you are. It's the seeing of what you're not. That's the true reflection of you here, is seeing what you're not. Yeah, so, yeah. And if you apply it to recovery, I think everything can be illuminated by non-duality beautifully. Yeah. In recovery, we have a statement on page 64. This really shook me up when I saw this in a new light. It says being convinced, so it means it's an active verb right now. You're being convinced, right? This moment, that self is what has defeated you. Yeah. Manifested in various ways. And if we're convinced of that right now, we will look at self's common manifestations and we do an inventory, we do a review of our seeming past life, and we look at resentments and fears and the harm we did to others in the pursuit of what we wanted. And we look at the sexual arena because it's a pretty juicy arena. And so by seeing that, we see how self defeated us, yeah? But the stubbornness of the identification of self is incredible. People will read that statement, and when they discover the expressions of self in those lives, resentments, fears, and harms unto others, they claim them to be their own. They are my resentments and my fears. That's the act of being identified as self. Some foreign installment is expressing itself through you, and you're claiming the expressions to be yours. That's the bondage of self. It's an activity. It didn't happen, it just seems to be happening. The good news, it could never happen, because you're truly, truly untouchable. Where are you going to grab no thing? How are you going to bond no thing? How are you going to quantify no thing? How are you going to jail no thing? Yeah. So the funny thing is, the biggest beneficiary is you and me. You become more like Michael when you're not Michael than ever. Yeah. It's a weird thing how it plays out. But then you're never chipped. You're never out of any moment, because you realize you're not trying to get in the moment. You realize you could never be out of a moment, ever. So you're not making any effort to get into what you can't be out of, and you're not making any effort to get out of what you can't be in, and you're not spending another freaking second looking for what can't be found. It's simple, very clean. Like Zen would say, now you see blue is blue and red is red. The horse is in front of the cart, and there's a balance and a harmony there. Yeah. I mean, it just resonates well. You know it before you knew anything. It's like an unspoken yes in your gut, man. And to me, over time, it became the last answer, which is a great freaking answer, because it negates any need for any other answer. And really, the basis of it is a loss of interest. You'd think you would be interested. You would think interest would win the day, but it's a loss of interest. You lose interest in the need to be liberated. That's the liberation. Yeah? Because what you are doesn't need liberation. What you're not needs it desperately. Yeah, so yeah, that's that. Any questions? No? Go.
Do you still pray and meditate?
No, not right now. But I do pray twice a day when I go to a meeting. I do. In the beginning and the end.
Right.
Yeah, so I do, actually.
Who is the prayer to? Or it's just an
Not
act,
to anything.
Right,
It's just
the act of praying.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're with a group of people. Yeah. The biggest thing you do in AA is hold the space, basically. And it's not an effort. You're there. Like you're completely there. And you're letting people be completely there if they choose to. Yeah? It's a joy, man. And also, the habit of self-centeredness is like a horizontal ring, like a Saturn ring of interest and attention. Most people are absorbed in the mental narration. And thank God there's AA meetings, like 700 of them a week. Because if you can go for an hour and listen to someone else speak, pay attention to other people, some of that attention will be pulled out of that fucking orbit around you, and you'll feel a little bit lighter and bigger and larger, yeah? And maybe you'll get a free sample of what it's like to live, quote unquote, out of self. Yeah. Yeah. And then also, it's good to be of service. Yeah, especially for certain alcoholics, certain action figures, we need to do service. It causes us a great amount of health, yeah? Yeah, and most practices you're doing is for the body and the brain. It's not for the spirit. You know, you don't have a spiritual awakening You are a spirit, and you're already awake. Yeah. Most people don't want to be awake. That's why we have 200 channels on cable. You know, it's hard to be on all the time. You know, difficult. We always are looking to get some dimming it down. So basically, most people don't want to be awake, but we are. Yeah. And it doesn't seem like there's any volition in the awakeness. Let's just call it being conscious contact. I'm not, if my eyes are open, I'm going to see what flies by. No matter if I took a vow never to see a bird, I'm going to see a bird. The eyes are open because I have no volition over it. Yeah, I come after the conscious contact. I'm an afterthought. That's implying it's before all thought. Yeah. Then, if you feel like you're before thought, then there's assumption you're the thinker or the doer of the thoughts, and then constant frustration ensues because they don't seem to listen to you. Like when you have an important appointment the next day and you're just saying, please stop at 11 p.m. You can start up at 8 a.m., but give me 9 hours. It never works. Yeah? It's insane. There would be no frustration if you saw what's thinking it's the thinker is a thought. Yeah? It's nothing other than a thought. It's a thought, and it's such a habitual thought, there's a sense around it. You have a feeling of being what the thought is, yeah? It's almost as if we're meditating on selfing all day, yeah? As almost like a mantra, I, me, my, and then the mind visualizes a body. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like people talk about, we're constantly in meditation. Most people are totally meditating on self all day. They're following every thought that's about them freaking all day. Isn't they? And then what would happen if you were power, really a lot of power, and what you were paying attention to was presupposing, implying, assuming, reinforcing that you're a body? I can imagine that you could easily manifest a sense of being a body. Yeah? If that power was misdirected, you would picture yourself as the thoughts picture you, as the memories picture you, and memories picture you as a body. And then it could go to such an absurd length, you'll try to become a spiritual body. You'll try to graft no thing onto thing. It doesn't work. A solution doesn't need vigilance. A solution produces a relaxation and an assurance. It doesn't demand fucking tons of work. Your inherent condition isn't demanding fucking anything. It's being what it is. It's not doing it, and so it cannot undo it. It's being it. As long as it is what it is, it's being what it is, which is aware. Yeah. I just don't see it. I don't see like practices of mindfulness of that which is all mind.
Exactly.
Yeah. So this is the message of non-duality. To me, it's like a relaxed awareness, like a dog shit awareness. It's quite ordinary. You may not even have a loving gaze or anything like that. And but you'll be fucking content and satisfied. Not after something, but before everything. Yeah. And then you'll be expressing it, not looking for it, which is a lot different way to live. To be expressing what you've been looking for your whole freaking life. Be expressing from there. Yeah. So AA, it's good to know the exact nature of the wrong. If you could see it as not your thoughts, you'd lose interest in them. And if the problem resides in the mind, yeah, then the best thing is lose interest in the mind. But see how we say it in AA, you got to quit playing God. But what happens if that which is playing God claims to hear that message, that it has to quit playing God? Isn't that playing God? Mm-hmm. Every time it tries to quit playing God, that's playing God. You'll never get out of the fucking little Chinese thumb torture thing. You can't get out of what you're not in. It's impossible. That's the assumption. The freedom is prior to the bondage, not after the bondage. After the bondage, it's all temporary freedom. Before the bondage, there's freedom from bondage. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
You say it's great to lose interest in the thoughts, but is there, I'm sorry to ask it, but a particular way to lose interest in the thoughts?
Well, by these talks, they should help you because we're pointing out you're not the thinker. And if they're not your thoughts, you're going to lose interest in it. Just like if I'm interested in it, we do it all the time. There's another meeting going on in the other room, and there's this woman I'd like to meet, maybe biblically, you know. I haven't talked to her, but I'm quite keen on her, and I have a lot of dreams about her. So I'm at this meeting having to do this talk, but my interest is in that room because it means a whole lot more than you do to me, you know. And so someone notices I'm not seemingly here, and they tell me, Paul, you know, you got this job, and I want to, but my attention's much more, and I'm trying to listen to what she says because I'm hoping she's going to say, I like that guy, Paul. Yeah, because I don't want to go in, you know, I want the bet hedged, you know, I don't want to get rejected. So, yeah, so I'm waiting. And then someone drops a book on the table, and I look at it. It says, How to Lose Interest in a Conversation in Another Room. Pays through it. I believe the principles, but I can't live by them because something that I don't really have any control over sees that as much more important than this. Yeah. But suddenly I hear her say something, and I'm like keen, and she says, I really like that guy, Matt. And my name is Paul. What happens? I lose interest in that conversation because it's not about me. That's exactly what happens. You're interested in the thoughts because you think you're the thinker or they're about you. That's the whole glue. The thoughts are thoughts.
But how can I convince myself that it's not
You
me?
can't. That's the whole point.
So it's like I'm caught. I'm caught.
No, you're not. You're not caught at all. You're freed, actually. You want to be there. That's why it's not seemingly happening.
Okay, I don't want to be there. I don't want to be there. I don't want to be there. I don't want to be there.
Well, see what happens, honey. See what happens. Just listen. Just let this spiritual subpoena hit and see what happens. Yeah? There's no magic way because how can you undone what hasn't been done? You're just in the doing of it. You're actively a participant in what you call the thing you like to get out of.
And it's almost like a suppression. Like, tell myself, you know, that's not me. Don't.
But see, that's self trying to get out of self.
Right.
That which is
Exactly.
talking isn't you. That's like a parrot that mimics. It's not you. You want to get out so bad, that's why you don't seem to get out. Acceptance is available. If you accept your plight, there's a great wisdom in no escape. You realize there's no fucking escape. It's never going to get better. And maybe if you stop trying to get out, you'll see the door swings open. I don't know. That's how it works for me.
I like that bloodhound terminology you use in the book, that you know, the evidence of to the degree that we go, like I want to get out. That's the bloodhound. It's like that's how serious. But seeing that is like, okay, that was a bloodhound, not me.
Yeah, see this. The self wants to get out of self, honey. Like we do something in AA, the fourth step, and so I heard a lady share about it once. I really liked it. The fourth step's an inventory, and the lady was working with someone, and the person said, you know, I can't wait to do the fourth step because, you know, I'm going to get free from so much shit. And then she was really disappointed because then the lady says, no, what's going to happen is you're going to be able to accept where you are. Yeah, that's the joy, see? And that's the problem. You're not accepting it. Yeah? You're in resistance to it. And you don't see that you're the fire starter. And yet while you're starting the fire, part of starting the fire is saying you don't want the fire. Yeah, you play the whole role. It's acceptance. Acceptance isn't something you can do. It's a byproduct.
Of understanding there's nothing you can do.
Exactly. There's an acceptance. To me, it was like I got struck sober, really. And one of the downloads was it was very clear as day. It was like a giant CNN news flash, just a headline, and the headline was, I'm fucked, yeah? And that has never changed. And I realized I'm not managerial quality, yeah?
But I hear the same, I'm fucked, and it doesn't do what it did to you. It's like...
Because you're claiming to be what hurt it. The message isn't fucking for you, honey. You're gonna be the expression of the message, not the receiver of it. We're talking the mind, but you keep putting your mitt up, catching every fucking mitt. And you've caught some great curveballs from fucking great masters. Muktananda, Robert Adams. You've caught all the pitches, the greatest arsenal of the major league pitches of spirituality. Yeah, and you just caught them all. And the catching of them neutered the fucking message. Yeah, and then to feel it that way, feel the collapse of the fucking system. You're not going to get it, nor are you going to be there to receive the joy of it. You're going to be absent, fucking finally. You've been 45 years. Yeah. That's a lot of hearing something. You wanted it to end this weekend, it's ending. So just let it fucking collapse. And maybe you'll be able to enjoy the rest of the Saturday night. Yeah. Look how lovely this place is. Give up the ghost and just be with the living, yeah? So let's eat, yeah? Yeah?
Yeah.
Let's eat a lot, honey. Fucking pour on the ice cream.